We're going to make this really great looking statue loaded with tons of details that you could use for all your tabletop games and dioramas. And of course, the top is removable. That's this week on Tabletop Witchcraft. Hey there, and welcome back to Tabletop Witchcraft. This week, we're going to make this really fun bronze statue. I've added lots of details to it, and of course magnets, so that you can remove the top and replace it with something really creepy or whatever you feel like replacing it with down the road, and you won't have to remake that base. I plan on using this in next week's video to really showcase that video off, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on it. It's kind of a culmination of a lot of things I've been working on. Now, if you want to help support the channel, head on over to Firelight Fables Candle Company. TWC10 at checkout gets you 10% off your entire order. Kickback comes to help out the channel, and I really appreciate it. All right, if you're ready, let's go grab some supplies, and let's get crafting. Okay, I think the Wolf's Keep candle by Firelight Fables Candle Company is a great candle for this video. I could definitely picture this statue outside of a big keep somewhere on the edge of a mountainside. Okay, so we're going to pick up a 2-inch block of XPS foam using the plans here. We're just going to take some quick measurements, and using the Proxon, we're going to slice all of these up. And the nice thing about this video is the entire thing's going to be made out of this one block. It's a small build, and we can really take our time and focus on the details. If you want these plans emailed to you, you can join the contractor tier over on Patreon, where on release day of these videos, I email the contractors all of the plans for these videos, and you can build along the day of the video. Alright, I'm just using my finger here to guide the pen at the same distance on both edges of the foam. That way I can use those guidelines up against the Proxon to get a nice beveled edge for the base of the statue. Now these marks are representing different slabs for the statue. They don't have to go across the whole thing because there's going to be another beveled piece that's going to go on top of this. So just carry those lines towards the center just enough so that this piece can cover them and you're good to go. Now, texturing this, I textured it really light because I want this to look like a smooth, shiny marble, which will have some texture, but not a lot. Alright, now for the magnets, I want to add one big magnet in the middle. I thought that would hold the statue in place. But after adding the Sculptamold, which you'll see here in just a few minutes, and some other things like paint and glue, it tries to warp the foam a little bit. So I ended up adding 2 smaller magnets on each end, and it snapped on and held in place really nice. Now on the top of the magnet here on piece 5, you can see I'm putting a lot of glue. It doesn't really matter because we're going to add a lot of Sculptamold and the statue on top of it, so you're never going to see it. Now this is just a real helpful piece to get your center design centered on the foam block. And you want to do this on all 4 sides. Alright, I love working with DOS clay, and I had a whole bunch of Green Stuff World rollers to pick from, and I love these because there's so many different designs on them. And I ended up going with this Draco rolling pin. I picked a nice design off of the top, I guess, quarter of the rolling pin to use to decorate the statue. Alright, you can see how this little piece comes in handy again for laying out the section of clay that we're going to want to use for the statue itself. Now this miniature is from the Pizza Dungeon Reaper Kickstarter. It's a Reaper miniature, and I just thought this was going to look really awesome on top of here. Now we're mixing up a little bit of Sculptamold and then some tacky glue on the base. It's going to help hold that Sculptamold in place. Alright, these are just some sticks that I found when I was hiking with my kids. I'm gonna cut these up, place them on here, and I was really excited to paint these up to look like the brass statue as well. It's not every day that you get to paint wood to look like brass. Alright, now using a wet Q-tip, a very wet Q-tip, I used some more Sculptamold just to cover the base of the miniature so that it all looked uniform. Grabbing some of these Army Painter rocks, it's really just cork. I used a bunch of these large ones around the base, and then I took some of the very fine cork that they had as well, and I put that on here. To get that to stick, I just used a little bit of tacky glue right here mixed with water. And I was going to come back and do a glue wash over the small bits of cork to make sure they didn't come off. But I was really surprised at how well this little cork stuck to that tacky glue wash that I initially put on the base. Alright, now this might get a little tricky, but essentially what I'm trying to do is have no cut marks on the face of my statue. So I hollowed out the center of this block that I'm not going to need, or you're not going to see. And then I fed my Proxxon wire through there. So now we have a seamless cut around the entire perimeter of the statue. We're going to rinse and repeat and do that on all the sides. Alright, when we're done, simply turn it off. Loosen up the wire, pull it out, and we have a nice seamless cut around the statue base. Now what I'm doing here is measuring the thickness of the inset. You can see on the left and right side of this base. I need to reproduce that on the front face here as well. So once we've sliced that off, you can see it's a nice recessed amount on all four sides. I'm taking a pen. We let this clay dry for 24 hours, and the nice thing about DOS clay is we can literally use an X-Acto knife. I took maybe 4 or 5 slices on this to make that cut. Just take your time. You don't want to rip it or tear it, and it cuts real easy. You can see what awesome details we can add with that clay and roller. Alright, now we don't want to glue this together until this point because we need to make all those dimensions for the clay itself. Once we have the clay cut out for all 4 sides, we can then glue the base back together. Alright, now for the Mod Podge mixture. I just used a little bit of country gray. I initially was going to do a concrete-y type gray for the base, but after searching online, I found this really cool marble base that had this line on it, and it was a dark gray and brown marble. It looked really cool. So you know what? I want to try and step out of my comfort zone a little bit, practice something that I typically don't do that often, and see if I can reproduce this marble look on the stone. Once we have that in there, I wet blend a couple, it's like an off-white or a cream color veins through the granite, and then I feather out those lines a little bit with this brush right here. Just do a little bit of edge highlighting. It's going to help this, stand out and pop after we add our wash. I'm taking a little bit of black primer. We're going to prime the entire top part of this. Checking the consistency of our metallic paint. We're ready to go and start adding some bronze to this statue. Okay, now what I like to do when I'm working with the airbrush is about 40% thinner, 40% paint, and about 20% airbrush flow improver. I get a really nice smooth spray coming out of the airbrush. Now I just wanted to show that we're going to do these panels in that brass as well. And I'm just applying a black wash over the entire base. Keeping a paper towel handy to pick up any pools or puddling. That way we don't have any dark unwanted spots on the base when we're done. Alright, now what I did was take a dark green and black mixture, spray this over all of the brass to give it that really nice aged look. And then this is my patina recipe right there on the left, those 4 colors mixed together. Now you want to go heavy on the blue and green and real light on that light yellow, and it makes a really nice patina color. Alright, while that's drying, we're going to grab some gloss varnish, spray the base. Again, I wanted this to look like marble. Alright, now to bring it all together, a black wash over this entire piece of the brass section. Again, really blends it all together well. Then once that dries, we're going to go and grab the brass color again, and a really heavy brush but with very, very little paint. It's going to bring out some of those nice shiny highlights, and it's going to look really, really awesome. Okay, finally ready to put these panels in. A little bit of tacky glue holds those in place. And now this is a dark brown pigment. You're not going to see the pigment that much with the base. It's almost the same color. I'm really applying it to dull it down a little bit where dirt and debris would build up over time, locking it in with some pigment fixer. Alright, and then just adding some tufts where the cracks would be on this for some weeds. Then we take a little bit of tacky glue and these Green Stuff World leaves. You've seen these in a ton of my videos. I absolutely love them for adding a nice splash of color. Alright, and finally, to bring this to life, we're going to grab a couple of crow miniatures from Honor Guard Miniatures. I'll put a link to his My Mini Factory page in the description below. And these are really going to help bring it to life. Adding a few of these to the back and to the antlers. This is all set and ready for the game table. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you give this craft a shot. You know, I've always found these small crafts as an opportunity to grow in areas that I feel like I needed some more practice. So give it a try, see if you like it, and who knows, maybe you'll find a new material that you really enjoy working with. I plan on using this craft to showcase next week's video as well. I almost really built this just to show that off as a piece of it. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on next week's video. And if you want to help support the channel, consider doing so over on Patreon. Support there really helps fund my channel. I like hanging out with everybody on Facebook, on Discord. We have a really great time, and I really appreciate all of your support. So thank you to everybody out there to help support me on Patreon as well. I really, really appreciate it. All right, until next time, I'll see you around.